You are listening to Coast to Coast Film Reviews with Raj and David. Let's talk movies.
Hey, welcome back. This is episode 2 of Coast to Coast Film Reviews. I'm Raj, and here he is, a guy who's managed to maintain his freshness long beyond his projected shelf life, David.
Oh, thank you. I guess I'm still fresh. Welcome, everybody.
That's a joke. You're not that old.
No, not yet.
No, I don't even do age jokes for anybody even close to my age, and
yeah, that's ageist.
That's very ageist. We're not ageist on this show. I apologize for that. Anyone who
we're all I identify as a 25-year-old.
That's okay. All right. That's good. I don't know. I think I stopped aging. Because like I told you last time, I was like, 34. I don't feel 34. I don't even know what that's supposed to feel like. But I think I am 30-ish. I still feel 30 or so. Like after 30 or 31, I just kind of, that's when I lost track of my ages. I think that's why. I still feel around there somewhere.
Oh, I don't think it matters. It doesn't matter anymore.
That's a sweet thing to say.
When you're in LA, you can just get a lot of, work done.
Oh, that's so true. And you're sending me the money for that.
Yeah, we'll make it off the podcast.
Oh, sweet. We're going to be starting our Patreon very soon.
I have a lot of Botox pictures.
Before and after on the website. First, I'm going to get my butt done. Get some implants. Get that popping. So there was something I wanted to talk about last time that we didn't talk about. Oh, yeah. So I thought maybe how we met, how we even got this started. I was going to say it's only episode 2. I thought we could still talk about ourselves and people will be forced to listen to it to some degree. I know they can, because they can skip. They could skip like 15 seconds and not have to hear this crap. 20 seconds, 20 minutes, whatever it takes. But yeah, so I was in a podcast prior to this, and things weren't going very well, and it sort of ended. The third wheel, at least I felt he was the third wheel, did not like me and wanted out and made.
How did somebody not like you, Raj?
Dave, every time we speak, you say something that just, if you weren't married, I'd just send you the ring myself. I'm telling you, you're a beautiful man, David. Thank you. But yeah, he was very right wing. At least that's the very least I can say. And,
okay, now I understand why he doesn't like you.
Oh, I am a colored man, if I didn't make that clear last time. I know I mentioned I was Buddhist, but I don't think I said I was Indian.
You're not allowed to say colored.
Oh, even if I am. Okay,
yeah, that's a no.
I'm
not unless you have to be an NAACP to use that term.
I have been in the sun too long, so I am of a darker tone than most individuals. Well, not in India. In India, I'd fit right in. So I'm Indian.
Yeah.
But anyway, my friend who was leading the podcast, who felt his role was to be centrist, was the one who received the ultimatum from the third wheel, and was told that if he didn't get rid of me, that he was out, and if he was willing to get rid of me, they would continue the podcast with someone else. And so he came to me and was like, this is what he said. So I just decided to cancel the whole thing. And so I was like, whatever you want to do, like whatever. And honestly, it was difficult because as much as I enjoyed the idea of being in a debate, it got pretty heated. And the whole point of having all 3 views in that way was to get as wide an audience as possible. But at the same time, it felt wrong to me because it was like I was allowing or at least accepting his viewpoints. And I accept other people's opinions, but I don't feel like I should condone them. Because at some points, he made a couple xenophobic and racist remarks about Muslims. And I corrected him on the air, and I think that's where that animosity towards me started. And it started to get very uncomfortable, and I got quiet, and my friend noticed that, and like I said, that's where it started, and things went downhill. I left that show. We stopped it, and I was making little tips and stuff. I was like, hey, let's do more of a variety. Let's do some movie reviews or book reviews, try to get different types of people who aren't just in it for the political stuff. But that's not what happened. That didn't happen. And so then I saw your post on Joker, and I was like, hey, this guy talks movies. He seems to like to analyze movies in a similar way that I do. And I responded to you, and then I messaged you, and I was like, hey, you want to do a podcast? And I think this is probably our 6th conversation over Skype or by voice. We've never met. And here we are doing our 2nd episode.
Yeah. I mean, that's a wonder. I talk a lot of terrible stuff about social media, and a lot of it is in my opinion truthful, but the power of social media to hurt people is also the same power that can bring people together with
Absolutely.
views. So it's pretty awesome when you see so much negativity and hatred on social media that you can make new friends and find like-minded people. Especially if you're really into something, say it be movies, say it be you're really into, street bikes. It's hard to find people in your neighborhood, in your city, that might be as deeply into that as you are. So that's like the wonder of social media. You can find people that are geeks like you about certain subjects.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just the advent of the internet has allowed, like you said, the trolls to come out from under their stones, under their rocks, to start spouting their hatred, because that anonymity, I guess, sort of brings out that ability to just, I can say whatever I want. What are they going to do, kind of thing. I don't have to show my face, but it also brings together a lot of people, a lot of like-minded people, and a lot of groups and political movements start in this way, and that's amazing. From all over the world, like just the fact that, I mean, you're on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast, so I mean that's pretty far, but I mean just to consider like scientists or like people who actually make more of a difference than you and I, and just movie reviews aren't keeping the world spinning or anything, but the scientists and like these brilliant minds that connect with some scientist who's never spoke to someone who's in his field in India, and they're speaking to some German physicist. Like that's just crazy. Like sure, we had phones, but there's so much of an increase in like media transferability now when it comes to videos and conversation data, just different kinds of data that can be shared now today. It's just amazing the kind of leaps and bounds technology has made in our lifetime.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, and we're not old, so that's to say that it is a short amount of time, not that it has been a long amount of time. Anyway, all right. So this episode may be the most important episode for David ever, because we will be discussing The Lighthouse. Yeah. But first, we are going to cover. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just saying.
But first, we are going to go through our individual top 5. And in this way, maybe it's almost like a couples podcast, because I'm doing my top 5 and you're doing a top 5, and together we have a top 10. Yes. So it's kind of cute. Don't get any ideas. We're still friends, okay? It's okay. It's all right. We're going to get through this. Yeah. Oh, see, now you tell me the limitations, I'm going to keep these written down. And then someday I'm going to move in next door and it's like, hey, why are you still married? I'm here. Okay, you do the honors. This is our list. Our
age before beauty.
Age. Hey, you want me to do that sort of thing. You told me not to be ageist, and now here you are. I just want to let you know this is all recorded. You're the one who's starting this back up. We are doing our top 5 from our birth year. Unfortunately, you will have to reveal your year before you start the top 5. Don't get mad at me. This is you who wanted this.
Do I have to say the year, or can I trust that my audience can Google it?
Oh, I mean,
I'll say it just in case, because we're in Facebook age.
Because then everyone's got to research this shit.
Yeah. I can lie and make this all up. Nobody's going to fact check me anyway.
I mean, it's true. We have 2 viewers at least. I think my sisters might listen to this.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Hi, sis.
Did your wife say she's willing to listen to this podcast or no? She's like, screw this, waste of time.
Oh, she probably will. She'll probably find out things that I said and it's like, just gloat on it or something.
Destroy your mic overnight. Like, hey, what happened? I don't know.
Oh, she can't hear Rosario Dawson stuff. She'll be upset.
You didn't tell me I can't put that in there. I left it in there.
Yeah, I forgot all about it.
You lie. She knows.
Well, I will start. I was born in the great year of 1979, the year of our Lord.
Oh.
So my top 5. I'm gonna go. I did them in order of what I liked the most, so it actually is a top 5. So I'll start with my 5th one, which is Amityville Horror.
Oh, that's a classic.
Yeah, it's a classic. James Brolin, full on 80s Grizzly Adams look. Awesome. A lot of people don't know that's his son was Thanos.
Oh, I didn't even make that connection.
Yes.
There are so many actors and actresses like that nowadays that every now and then, like in some interview, they'll say like, "Oh, his father, son of so and so." I'm like, "Whoa, what? Like, why isn't this like more public?" But maybe I just missed the boat when they first came on screen. I'm like, "Oh, that's them."
Well, James Brolin, he did a lot of stuff in the 70s and some stuff in the 80s, and so he wasn't like as big as his son. But Amityville Horror is just a classic. Also, being a New Yorker, I've actually been to the Amityville house in Long Island. So went there as a kid with my dad. I thought, as a kid, I thought it'd be much cooler, but it's just a house.
Did you feel creeped out at all? Did you anything? Nothing?
I just thought it was cool to Amityville house.
Oh, you really just took it as it's a movie. It's a movie location.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Before we leave that movie, is there any truth to like some of the insanity or like the haunting part of it?
No, that stuff was all made up.
Oh,
I think it's pretty much on record that it was all made up.
I hope we didn't hurt anyone's feelings when they.
It was just trying to get media attention. But it's still a great movie. It's one of my favorite haunted house movies, and I think it set the bar for most of the stuff that came after it.
Haunted house / family killings / kind of like I don't know what else, like psychotic kind of things. Like I think there's a lot of it covers a few.
Yeah, James Brolin plays almost that Jack Nicholson character from The Shining, how he just kind of slowly goes crazy, and it's just all around just a solid movie. And it's one of those that, most people, if they list their top, 20, 30 horror films, it's going to be in a lot of lists. My number 4 is...
Well, I was going to say, favorite scene or favorite line, anything from that movie that you recall?
Well, being an atheist, I really loved when the priest was attacked by the bees.
That's funny because you said being an atheist, not so much anything else. Like just the fact you started off with that, I was just like, oh yeah, this is gonna be good.
And Dad with an axe, always like pissed off fathers with an axe, because I can relate, and so I'm feeling that way sometimes.
Here at Coast2Coast Film Reviews, we do not condone attacking.
No. I don't condone chopping up the family. I just understand the stress of wanting to maybe chop up the family.
Yeah. Get a family, have kids, then come back to us and complain.
Yes. If you don't have kids, you won't know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So my number 4 is The Warriors.
Oh, I was gonna say, I thought we were doing the back and forth.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't mean
Okay.
to step on your toes there.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine as long as you understand that you stepped on them. Okay. The So I'm gonna go with I guess I'm trying to order these like you did. I want to be like David. Want to be like
Yeah.
David. Okay.
Just
My
throw
my
5 movies out there.
my fifth, and these were carefully thought out. These were not done just before the show started or anything. These were, I don't know why you're laughing. Number 5 is Clue. Clue, I saw not when at 1985. I suppose none of these I did. I don't need to say that. I
Yeah,
saw
I
it
didn't
on.
see these in 79 either.
I was like, wait, I don't know why I said
Well,
that.
if I did, I don't remember my first viewing.
If you did, I don't believe this review now. But yeah, Clue I thought was really funny when I saw it because there were so many actors that maybe they all weren't quite as popular or high paid as they were as well known as they became later on. But it was so funny how many characters that I recognized when I first saw it, and it was so funny the twists. Like I think it was the end, right at the end. There was like 3 or 4 different twists where they were like, and this is how it happened, and then but this is actually how it happened, and that just had me. I was just like rolling. I was like, oh my gosh, when is this gonna end? And the movie is based on the game, I assume, or is the game is not based on the movie?
Would you say it's the best board game adapt ever?
I would like to ask you, do you think there's a better game movie adaptation than Clue?
I think the Battleships movie was
Oh
terrible.
God, that was so good. It was so bad. It was ridiculous.
I'll go again. My number 4 is The Warriors, which it's just a classic 70s sleazy New York gang movie. What great twists, the gangs are amazing. They have like the Native American gang and the baseball player gang, and it's just one of those movies that is it's just a cult classic. It's a
That's
great
one I
movie.
want to see still. I haven't seen it. It's on my list of like one of those old classics to watch,
You
violence and
haven't
stuff.
seen The Warriors?
I
Yeah,
have
definitely.
not. This
Definitely
is
put
going to
that.
be a common thing. I think I should just get a T-shirt that says it's on my list.
It's on my
And,
list.
and it's just
That'd
me
be
with
your
my finger.
catchphrase. That would be
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what you talking about, Willis?
I have a button here on my mixer, on my sound mixer. It's on my list. It's on
I'm
my
sorry
list.
for our millennial listeners. I just made a reference to different strokes.
Are all those actors still alive? I think the white
No,
father
Gary
might be
Coleman
dead.
died.
Oh, he
Yeah, I
died.
know
He was a
Gary.
black belt. Well, that I know that. If I gave the eulogy, that's all I have to say. Like Gary
I think
Cole.
like he was like a security officer for a little while.
That makes
See, we're
sense.
going off on one of our tangents again.
Oh yes, yes we are. As long as it doesn't stretch into 3 hours, that's good.
Okay.
But that's just a lot of editing.
Well, what's your number 4?
Number 4 for me, I'm gonna put. Oh gosh, let me put Weird Science, which I just recently. I mean, I always knew because it was always on my list because I prepared this well in advance. But I just recently found out. Well, now I can't say that I recently found out it was 1985. But I remember seeing it, and it was okay, I knew science better than the show depicted it, so I knew it was such bullshit. But I so badly wanted to try and create a woman at one point, and I was like, what? What are they doing? How could they do this? And I was like, but it's a movie. And then I was like, it's a movie, but it's a movie. So
Yes.
how could it's like some of this has got to be true? No, but
Well, the funny part is they made a woman and then she ran the show.
and she was alive, and they had a party, and she taught them life lessons, and things probably didn't turn out the way they thought it was going to turn out, or the audience did. And I forget who the woman was, but very classic
Yeah,
late
well,
80s look.
yeah, beautiful woman. Yeah, I think that's the first film I saw Robert Downey Jr. in. I could be wrong.
That was, you mean one of the two main characters, Robert Downey Jr.?
Yeah,
I don't think so. That, because it's on my list and I prepared this well in advance, I have to check Weird Science Cast. It's that one guy from, oh my gosh, isn't it that one guy from Breakfast Club? Also 1985. It's Anthony Michael Hall.
Yeah, and
Whoa.
Robert Downey Jr. played Ian.
Robert Downey Jr. Was Ian? Who's the other guy then? I think it's
He was
Ian
like the third
Michael
guy.
Smith. Yeah, okay.
Bill Paxton, who they had a pretty strong cast.
The late Bill Paxton.
Yep, and Kelly LeBrock.
The late Kelly. Actually, I don't know if she's dead. She may be still alive, but Kelly LeBrock is the female. Yes. Where are we at? Your number 3?
Yes, my number 3 would be Phantasm.
Phantasm. That sounds familiar.
That is the story of the Undertaker, who is from another planet.
I thought you meant WWF.
No, he's not that one.
Not the Undertaker.
They call him the Tall Man. The Tall Man.
Oh.
I don't want to give away too much if you haven't seen it, and I know you don't like spoilers, but it's best known for the little flying spheres that have little drills and different attachments to kill people. It's very it's a surreal movie, very fever dreamish type movie, but that's another horror classic. And there's like 5 of them now, 5 or 6 of them. So,
if this podcast is for nothing else, I need this as a record of all of your recommendations so that I don't have to take any of these frivolous notes like in our previous conversations when you're like, oh, that's a good movie, that's must see. I have notes all over this table of like, must see this. Dave says good movie, this is better than this one. And now that we're recording this, I don't have to do that anymore.
Yes.
And we just have to do these lists.
Yeah, the Phantasm's awesome, and horror fans, that's another horror classic.
Okay. So did you pick these so that you would have this huge following of people saying, "Oh, great picks, David! Great picks, awesome picks, David"?
No, these
so you picked all these ones that millions and millions of people have loved.
Hey,
okay.
85's a tough year. I'll give you that. Like we were talking before, 84 was such a paramount year for film that 85 was just like garbage.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm gonna get to my
Goonies. So
no, listen, I was very honest and to pick movies that were close to my heart and not just to please everyone else like some people. Yeah. So I just want to say that my picks are much
just
more.
Let you know, I watched Phantasm like 2 weeks ago.
Oh yeah, for the first time.
No, not for the first time.
I don't believe it. No,
it was the first time I watched the 4K restoration.
Oh crap! They redid it. They remastered it in 4K.
Oh hell yeah! That's like the big thing in like classic horror right now.
Oh well, then it must be decent, I suppose. My number three. Where are we at? Oh man, which one should I put at 3? So I did that one. I'm gonna put. Oh gosh. All right, I'm gonna put at number 3 on my top 5 list is Monkey Shines. Now, this is a controversial movie for my list, mainly because I've broken the rules and it's from 1988. But that's because when I was doing my extensive week-long research into 1985 movies, and this is taken very seriously, I just couldn't find, honestly, like I said, these were very heartfelt list. I really wanted to put a lot of effort in. I just couldn't. I couldn't lie to you guys and pick the best one that everyone loved, like Goonies. David wanted me to pick Goonies, but that was my wife's probably favorite movie. She would tell me to put that on there. So I'll say it's an honorable mention, Goonies. Just not in my top 5. Monkey Shines, coming back to that. Hilarious movie. It's a must-watch. Not a comedy. It was created as a horror. I suppose maybe a thriller. Paraplegic man, or was he quadriplegic? maybe quadriplegic. Man, that's not the funny part. Don't laugh yet. That's not funny. Man in a wheelchair, anyway. He gets a helper monkey. Now we can laugh. Helper
Yes.
monkey gets jealous of his life, his wife, his girlfriend, something along those lines. I have to see it again. Unlike David, I didn't review all these movies or watch them for the first time with Phantasm.
Yeah.
And
Well, and also you should also tell people that your mom was 36 months pregnant at the time.
oh, when this came out?
Yeah. So it still kind of fits.
I'm not sure who's doing the math here, but 1985 was when I was born. The movie came out in 88. So I was 3, the ripe age, old age outside of my mother's womb at 3 years old. I didn't see this movie. I saw it 5 or 6 years ago. Anyway, hilarious movie. This monkey gets jealous and completely drives this guy crazy. I think ends up leading to his death. So worth the watch, even though you know that's how it ends. So awesome. David, you're
We just
up.
went into surreal territory, so people are like all confused now. Like, what year are we on?
Yeah, we'll come back. I'll remind everyone when it's my turn again.
Well, my list. See, this film just came out like a couple weeks ago, but you know what? It's the Lighthouse.
No, you can't. Listen, just because I broke the rules, you should then,
Okay. I'll do. I'm on my
pick
number
up
2.
the integrity here. And
I'm on my number 2, and this is one of my favorite comedies ever from some of my favorite comedian writers, but The Life of Brian, Monty Python.
that's on my list. God damn it.
Oh, oh God, yeah, you need a long list.
I have a long list.
I'm a huge Monty Python fan. They just do some of the best comedy. And this is a knock on religion. Brian was born the same time as Jesus, so it's the life of Brian as opposed to the life of Jesus. My favorite scene is it's a bunch of women with another person being stoned. So the guy who's coordinating the stoning, he's getting everybody ready, and people keep on throwing rocks before he says go. So he's getting all pissed off, and the people are just stoning. It's just such a great scene. But anything Monty Python puts out, I'm gonna watch. But I didn't even realize that was 1979 until I did my list. But that is just such a funny movie.
Okay. I said that one. Okay, my number 2. This is a movie I saw a few years ago, and I found out that it was 1985. And actually, I don't believe that. I need to make sure real quick, because let me see. 1985. Okay. The movie is called Gymkata. Have you ever heard of it?
I do not believe so.
It is a must-watch. I don't know who these actors are. It is Kurt Thomas, as far as I know. He's an actual gymnast, and they tried to make this guy into an action hero. 17% Rotten Tomatoes, 4.4 on IMDb. These are truthful stats or ratings. The movie is so funny. Basically, do you know the premise of Mortal Kombat?
Oh yeah.
So Mortal Kombat is where these fighters are brought together to fight in a once in a millennia fight to see who is going to rule the next millennia, whether it's going to be some demons or humans will be able to protect the world. Anyway, Gymkata, there's something related to this where there's some nuclear bomb that is going to come into possession of some terrorists, and I don't want to hurt any Kazakhstan natives, but I think it's Kazakhstan or it's some made up nation. Anyway, they train him to be some kind of gymnast ninja. The training whole montage is so funny and ridiculous, and he goes off to this country and he participates in this mortal kind of race fight thing. It's funny. It is a must watch. You have to see this. You will just roll over about the stupid acting, the terrible plot. It's funny all around. It's a must watch.
Yeah, I've
Absolutely.
not even heard of that one.
I'm sure you
I'll
can
have to
probably
check
find it
that
on
out.
like YouTube or online. I don't condone that. Just saying it is available.
I wonder if that's one even made it to Blu-ray. So one of
It,
those are just left back in time.
you'd be surprised. Some of these like really bad movies, they get such a cult following later
Oh yeah.
on that
Oh yeah.
yeah, I'm sure you've heard about this stuff like that.
My number one, and to tell you the truth, I probably wouldn't trust somebody if this wasn't their number one. Like if
Mhm.
you told me something else, I'd probably say, "Hey, I don't trust."
These are based on years, and my year is not the same as yours. I will not technically have your number one. You can't hold that.
No. I'm talking about if you picked movies from 1979 and
Oh,
this wasn't your number one.
got it.
Yeah, I got it. There might be one I might accept, which isn't in my top five, but my number one's Alien.
Oh, jeez, yeah. Oh, now that I think about it, I think you said this when you first mentioned us doing this list. Oh,
Yeah,
that's a must. Yeah.
that it's top five probably films for me ever.
Yeah.
Um, I probably watch this movie 4 or 5 times a year. Um,
Okay.
have you seen the 4K restoration of that film?
No, no, but I guess you have.
Yes. If you have not seen the 4K restoration, you should get that.
Does it
Um,
have any extra footage? Like, do they have director's cut stuff in there? Is there
yeah,
anything more?
I'm gonna sound like an idiot again, but I probably have like 4 or 5 copies of Alien.
You're a fan. You're a big fan of movies, way more than
Because
I
I'll buy it when new cuts come out, and it's ridiculous. Plus, I have like 2 different box sets because then, Prometheus and everything comes. It's stupid, but I do it. But
they know your type is out there, and they are stringing you along as long as you're alive. They're like,
take
yeah,
my money. Take my money.
save those 20 minutes. In 10 years, we're going to come out with another 20 minutes. And yeah, we have another 10 minutes of footage.
But if
Yeah.
you watch the Alien right now, today, 2019,
Hmm.
if you take out the dated looking computer equipment, obviously, that film looks like it could have been made yesterday. That's how amazing it is.
It's aged really well. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. If you take away the computer stuff, you couldn't tell. I mean, maybe Sigourney Weaver's hair a little bit, but that's neither here nor there. But the first shot of the ship to Nostromo coming over, when you look at it in the 4K, you can see every single nook and cranny of the ship. It's just it's beautiful.
Oh, in a good way. Oh, I thought you meant
Yeah.
like you can tell it was, yeah. Oh, okay.
No, you just see every single detail, and
That's awesome.
it's one of those movies where, um, you know, I'm weird. There's certain movies I want to see a lot of gore, and I want more going on. But then there's, especially like in haunted house movies, I don't want to see the ghosts that much. It's more creepier when you don't see it that much, and that's the beautiful. Alien is really just like a haunted house movie if you break down the concept. Um, and they don't show the alien that much, which
Yeah.
the alien creature is one of the greatest pieces of art ever made in horror. But and then at the end, it just creeps you out so much because it's there, about to destroy everything. It's just like I said, top five movie for me. It's a classic.
My number one started a huge, huge trend. No, started a huge love for movies. This is what I should have said in the last podcast. Back to the Future is my number one. I love time travel movies. I mean, especially when they're done well. If they're not, they go to the bottom of my list like forever. They'll never come back. If I don't like something they did, or it's like, oh, that doesn't make sense. That's just horrible. I never want to see that movie ever again. But if it's even just remotely good, I'll recommend it to like everybody. Oh, I love it. It's a time travel movie. Or sometimes you can't say it's a time travel movie until, because it's only revealed at the end or something. But Back to the Future, I feel like the cast was so perfect, and it was just like so fun. It's just one of those movies like that you can just start, or if it's on TV, like I'll just watch it from wherever. Like it's just one of those like feel good movies, and like I said, time travel. I love time travel movies, like, oh, how did this affect the future, and the weird mix-ups and stuff. It was just the perfect mix of comedy and serious, sort of serious storytelling, where it's like, oh, like things have serious consequences, I guess. And Christopher Lloyd, just funny, just ridiculous. And also some terrorists, some strange stereotypes that open up some Libyan.
Were they Libyan? I haven't seen a movie in a while.
So, whoever the current enemies were of the time to the U.S.
Which, if I remember right, it was just like some white guys with fake beards and towels on their head.
They might as well have been, yeah.
Stereotypical, but it was the 80s, so things were a little bit different. But that movie, like...
Don't give them excuses.
It encompasses the 80s. Like, you think of the 80s, that movie pops into your mind. It's so tied to that decade, and that decade is so tied to it. Well, we should really get into the Lighthouse, shouldn't we?
Oh, shit. Before we get into Lighthouse, real quick, this portion of Coast to Coast Film Reviews is brought to you by Jim's Reconditioned Worthless Crap. Remember our motto: if you're looking for something you don't need, can't use, and don't want, you've come to the right place.
Oh, thank you for the money, Jim. That's so kind of you.
Jim's a sweet guy. I talked to him earlier this day, and he was like, please, Raj, your podcast is going to blow up.
Yeah, I just bought a typewriter from him. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is?
Yeah.
Probably didn't go to Jim, but...
No, it's a typewriter, so it's useless.
Oh, I see. I get what you're saying. I didn't follow through on that. I apologize.
Yeah, the dot matrix printer broke.
Holy cow. I miss dot matrix. It's so stupid machines. Let's talk Lighthouse.
I've been waiting for this one.
Oh, I know. You've been, I think you posted like 4 posts on Lighthouse. Did you guys see this? I'm going to go see this. I saw this. Did anybody else see this? There's like every
I'm going for a second time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was it. The 4th one.
Well, first of all, it's directed by Robert Eggers, who did The Witch, which I'm guessing is 2 years old now. Yeah, 2 years old. I was captivated by that movie. I loved it. It's an amazing film. So I was super excited to see The Lighthouse. I tried not to read much of anything about it. I didn't watch the trailer. I was just going in. I knew that Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe were starring, which I enjoy both of their works. And so I tried to go in as blind as possible. And man, I was just blown away by this movie. First thing I'd like to talk about is the aspect ratio that they did this film in. They did it what's called 1.19 to 1, which for people who don't really understand aspect ratio too much, that is the viewing surface area pretty much of what you're looking at. So sometimes we have widescreen that have the small bars at the top and the bottom. Sometimes it's full on wide. If you watch a DVD on like a 1080p or 4K TV, a lot of times they'll have the bars on the side. So this is kind of like watching a 480 on a 1080p or higher, where you have the bars on the side. But this is cut in a little bit closer, which makes it very square. And almost, you get a more vertical view of what's going on as opposed to a wide angle view, which I think worked perfectly for this movie because it's confined spaces, and it makes you feel almost claustrophobic. It made me feel even a little anxious.
I'd say it it gave me a very old feel to the movie, and obviously it's in black and white too, so that only added to it. It felt like you were watching an old film. It didn't have any graininess to it or anything, but just the black and white, and then this tiny viewing hole, like we're just staring at someone like outside of a box, like from inside a box. We're like watching this whole movie. It was really different, and I didn't really notice it until sort of maybe like halfway through the movie, I'm like, this is really small.
Yeah, I didn't even know that he shot it in that aspect ratio because, again, I tried to go into it as blind as possible.
Hmm.
I noticed on the trailers, and I'm like, what's going on? Why is the aspect ratio like that on the trailers? It's just really strange.
Do you think it was your
Uh,
computer?
I didn't download it. But I saw it in a small quote unquote art house theater because it was the only one in the area that was playing it. Um, but yeah, it just affected me on a visual level that just made me uneasy in a really good way. Um, but with the black and white, I've you've seen directors more recently in art film kind of messing with the aspect ratio
Yeah.
a little more than what they used to. When I watched the other day, Ghost Story did a real boxy aspect ratio, but it's when it's in black and white, it makes me feel a little different. In color, I was like, yeah, you could have done that in widescreen, but in black and white, and that's an old aspect ratio. Believe it or not, widescreen, the wide aspect ratios, even in movie theaters, that really wasn't a thing until the 50s. So that's how films were viewed back in the day. And from what my reading, the lenses they used were all made from in between 1919 and 1938, or 1913 and 1938. So he was using lenses that were almost to the time of where the movie set, which is pretty interesting.
Oh, I didn't know that. I was
It's
gonna
done in
say
black and Go ahead.
Tarantino is, if I think I am mistaken, but I don't think he messes with the the aspect ratios, but I think he always does them in that, gosh, what is it, like 35 millimeter or
Yeah,
something? He always uses that, but that's film size. That's not
yeah.
necessarily.
He does 70 millimeter too. I think he did Hateful Eight and 70 millimeter.
Mhm.
This one was shot in 35 millimeter, which is almost dying off because so many companies are going digital.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in a place where I viewed it, played a digital scan copy, I would have liked to see it in 35 millimeter because it gives it a little bit more graininess. Um,
I mean, from what I heard, you're lucky that you found a theater that was playing it at all.
oh, I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky, and for a while I couldn't find it playing anywhere. This place, they didn't start advertising it until a few days before.
Mm.
Um,
What? Just a few days? How was it packed at all when you went in?
the first viewing was, I would say, 70% capacity.
Oh, okay.
My second viewing was probably more like 35-40% capacity. But the second is, I went the first night it showed for my first viewing. The second time I went was later on a Sunday, so I don't know if that really played much part into it. Um, but the film takes place in the late 1800s, I think 1890s is what I read, and it's about two lighthouse keepers. One is in charge, one is the underling,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty much their descent into madness, I would guess, would be the easiest way to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah, we discussed this beforehand if how much we were going to reveal. I just want to go like from beginning to end and just say the whole thing. Um, I think we can be satisfied without revealing too much, but yeah, it's about these two gentlemen. One who, like you said, is more or less supposed to be preparing to be his understudy, but not necessarily for this lighthouse, but learning how to care for it and learning how to be a caretaker for the lighthouse. And as the relationship progresses, he realizes that he's just going to end up taking over all of the shit duties that the older gentleman who's in charge doesn't want to do, and the older gentleman does not want him taking care of the light portion of the lighthouse, and he has to take care of everything else except for the cooking, which I thought was strange. I was like, oh, he's doing everything, but no. Then apparently he starts. That was really funny. It was strange how this was. creepy, and then it was supposed to be driving him insane. And then there was just these moments where like I couldn't help but laugh. Like the farting, that was funny. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what is this movie anymore? Like I really only felt comfortable laughing when I started to hear other people laughing because I wasn't sure about it. I was like, that's funny, right? Like
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
yeah,
it's
and I think there was a lot of intentionally funny. I wouldn't say a lot, but there was definitely some intentionally funny scenes,
yeah.
which kind of endeared it more to me. One of the big issues people have with art houses, they might think it's pretentious, it takes itself too seriously, but Robert Eggers didn't do that with this film. He played with different emotions. You're talking about the cooking. There was a great scene where Willem Dafoe just gets so offended because he's told that his cooking sucks.
Yeah.
And he does this great monologue.
Oh my gosh.
And the payoff
Yeah.
on the joke is just amazing. Like he
S-
does, I don't want to give
Yeah.
away the joke, but he does this brilliant, like Shakespearean pissed off monologue, and it's just amazing.
I mean, it's like we've talked about Defoe before. Probably not on the show, obviously, but um, uh, he's just so talented. I already expected him to do his Defoe, like just to be himself, and he delivered. Like that was him all over. Pattinson, what was the last thing you were impressed with him in? Because I didn't see. I think there was Water for Elephants was one that I wanted to see. I haven't seen yet. It's on my list. But I don't know Pattinson from anything else actually. So this one
I
was like the best I have ever seen Pattinson in. It was brilliant. His acting
he
was really good.
he was in a film called The Rover, which I really like. Him and Guy Pearce, and I'm a big fan of Guy Pearce as well.
They're
Um,
over. I'm writing that
It's
down.
like a post-apocalyptic. It was Australian films. Really good movie. He also had a part in David Cronenberg's Maps to the Stars,
Hmm.
which I love that movie as well. Um, and I'd never seen the Twilights. I just, oh, this guy, I was like, that's the guy who was in Twilight. I just remember seeing pictures of him from the films and stuff. And so my only exposure to him is being a very competent actor. Um, and when I first saw this movie, the first viewing, I was like, William Dafoe is a genius. Like the way he was the character.
Right. Yeah.
There, it's one of those I can't imagine another person playing the part. It's so good that I would put it in, not to just spout out hyperbole, but it's got to be one of my top 20 favorite performances I've ever seen in a film. Just how good he is.
Hmm.
And I thought, yeah, Pattinson is really good in this movie too. The second time I saw it,
Oh yeah,
Robert
that's right.
Robert
You went and saw
Pattinson
it twice.
has so much nuance to the character. He doesn't say much, not many lines, but the way he portrays emotions and the scale of emotion that he goes through,
Yeah.
I I got to the point it's like I can't even say who's better. Like if you're trying to choose like best actor just between them two and nobody
Mhm.
else, it would be hard for me to say who was better. That's how good the acting performances are.
I would be really surprised if there were no nominations for this movie. I wouldn't be surprised if they were both nominated for this movie. That would be
We have
crazy.
we have that the whole set that was all made for the movie.
Mm.
Everything
What,
that you
the
see in that
Lighthouse?
movie was that's a Plyhouse Lighthouse, a plywood
Oh,
lighthouse. They created everything for that movie. So production design, I think, definitely deserves a nomination.
wow.
The cinematography is some of the best I've ever seen. Um, I don't think Robert Eggers would get a nomination for director, even though I think he deserves it. But the acting, if both of these guys are overlooked, it would be a tragedy. It'd be a tragedy for the Oscars. I don't watch it anyway, and I don't
Yeah.
give it as much merit as I used to. But this would just make it. it would turn into like the MTV movie awards to me. Not to knock him, but Willem's kind of a strange looking dude too. So it's to see that this guy is getting parts. If you look like Willem Dafoe and you get an acting parts like that, you know you're fucking good.
Yeah, that's true.
He's not Brad Pitt, but he plays these characters, and he just drew me into this movie, and all the accent, the jargon that he's using, it just shows Eggers' attention to detail. He's the research that he did to try to make it specific to that time period is just amazing, to the point where there are times where you have it's a little hard to understand everything that his character's saying. You kind of have to get into context.
I think it took me probably 3 or 4 minutes before I started to realize they were speaking in English. It took me a little bit to I was like, I gotta really pay attention to these words. And then every so often I was like, I don't know what that means. I was like, but I understand in context what they're saying. But yeah, were those his real teeth? Because I was grossed out.
Those were his real teeth.
It was like, what happened? Like, are you a method actor? Did you go to a surgeon to get this done?
He's a meth actor.
Yeah. But yeah, those teeth, being in black and white, it takes care of a lot of makeup issues, a lot of color issues. Like, there's just so much when there is a color film. Maybe it's just me, but my eyes get drawn everywhere, all over the screen. I'm like, oh, this, that, and I'll remember these stupid details in a room, and I'll start following all these movie mistakes where stuff moves around the room from scene to scene, cut to cut. And I'm like, wait, that wasn't there, and I'm not paying attention to the movie. I feel like the black and white helped me focus a lot more on the acting. And I don't know if this is true of all black and white movies for me, but at least in this movie, I noticed that I was really able to focus, because I'm like, it doesn't matter what color that is. It doesn't matter what pattern that is. Maybe sometimes it's almost like I feel like there's hidden meanings. Like, oh, why did the director choose that bed sheet? Why did they choose that painting? You know what I mean, though, right? Because they do that, and they'll talk about it in the director's cut, in some soundtrack overlay. They'll be like, in this scene, we chose this portrait for the wall because we felt it really brought out the mother's perspective. I'm like, get out of here! I didn't even notice that. So now, like, ever since I started listening to those kind of commentary, I'm like, oh, what is that? What is that for? Why do you pick that? Why do you pick that? But in the black and white, I was just like, I was able to ignore so much and just really appreciate the quality acting. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And just like, you really have to stare at their faces and watch the movement, and just their emotions go crazy.
Yeah, and Willem Dafoe, in both symbolism and just visually, he's almost like a godlike character in this film. And I think the close-ups reminded me of old black and white films, like with Moses doing a monologue. It's just extreme close-up, and you see his beard's perfect, and just everything about the character is just perfect. And they do these old 1940s close-ups of these characters when they're speaking, and it looked beautiful. I
believe the teeth. Those teeth look real and gross.
You can take stills from this movie, and all of them could be great photographs. That's how great the cinematography is. This is probably going to be one of my favorite shots of all time, but the shot of the boat leaving that is cropped off through the rocks at the very beginning of the film.
As the fog rolls in,
I saw that shot, and my jaw just almost hit the ground. I'm like, how fucking beautiful is that shot? And there's many parts of the movie that's like that. It's just insanely beautiful the way they shot the film.
I loved some of the scenes where they would just show the shore crashing on the rocks. And part of me was like, wait, is this a studio? Because it's hard for me to know. It's hard for me to know if I can appreciate this And I was like, oh, that's such a beautiful natural setting. And then later find out like, oh, this was all done in a studio, and that's all CG, that's all fake, this is all fake. And I'm like, oh, I was such an idiot to believe that. Like
Well,
like when I go back to like some of the Lord of the Rings movies, and I find out, oh, it was really shot in New Zealand. Like I wait till after to find out, and then I'm like, oh, okay, it was natural. Yeah, it was so beautiful. Otherwise, I'm like, oh, that was all fake, you piece of crap. Like it was all CG. You fooled me.
now this film was probably in my head for a week straight, so um,
You were
I
tortured.
oh yeah, and I read so much about it. I probably watched about 3 or 4 interviews with Robert Eggers talking about it, but it was all shot in Nova Scotia on a dreary little island
Mm.
at the beginning of spring, which in Nova Scotia, beginning of spring is still cold as hell. Um, and he said, the storms came. It was a miserable shoot a lot of the times because of the weather. But he said most of the dramatic stuff in the water and the rain, that was all real. That was all what was really going on at the time.
It certainly looked real. I mean, if it was, it fooled me, but that looked so real. Just the weather, the landscape, the man, just that the rocks and him constantly. Gosh, I felt I was going crazy with him. Just that monotonous work day after day with him, and Willem Dafoe was pissing me off. I was like, oh God, if I was if I was there, I'd be just as pissed off as Pattinson. And then they'd be all buddies, and I'm like, oh, nah, he's not such a bad guy. He's just an old kook. And then he pisses you off again. He's like, I want to. I'm like, oh,
The,
they're
the
gonna
scene,
kill him. He's gonna kill him. Oh no, they're buddies. That's fine.
the scene where he has a diatribe about swapping, mopping the floor.
Oh yeah.
Basically tells him, you're going to do what if I ask you to take every nail out and suck the rust off and put this lighthouse
Woo.
back together, you're going to do it, and you're going to like to do it because I fucking tell you so. Like it was so convincing. It was like, damn, that's like the worst fucking boss ever.
I was thinking, I was like, was there? I thought they were gonna reveal because I thought about whenever I watch movies and stuff, I try to pick out like small ideas that I can grow an entire story from. I have a whole list. It's on my list. There's a huge list of ideas that I have for books, and sometimes what I do is fiction. And what I do is I like try to combine like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of them, and then see, can I create entire characters with this? And I've done it before, and I don't show people this kind of stuff. But with them, I thought, I was like, if the movie started out and they didn't explain their relationship to each other just as a couple of sailors, and they went on, and in the end we find out that what if they were actually father and son? And then, there's something revealed, like somehow he's like, whatever, my son, or so if he kills him. I was like, oh, wow, that would be really crazy. But that's what triggered in my head. Like he's being this sudden father figure. I was like, oh, man, he is going to lose it. And,
The Lighthouse, is this horror?
no, I
Because
wouldn't say
everybody,
horror.
everywhere they see, the horror film, and and like we've discussed before, I have a very broad view of horror, but
If it has to say horror, then I would say a horror thriller, I guess, if you have to put horror in it. Because
I would probably label it like a dark drama.
yeah, okay, yeah,
I
sure.
think it defies genre.
Because there's definitely like, that suspenseful, that sort of edge of your seat kind of feeling throughout the whole movie, because you're waiting and waiting and waiting for it to for something to happen, and it's going to be violent, it's going to be, something devastating, relationship ending between these characters. Like something is going to be so critical, and if you leave the theater and decide you're done with it, you're going to miss the whole point of this movie. Like that's I feel like that's thrilling, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Maybe even just suspense, I don't know. But horror, I just don't I don't know. When it comes, like, I know we talked about, like you said, the horror to me, I think it has to be more based around something that's constantly just sort of a shock. And I just didn't feel that through the whole movie.
It's definitely unnerving.
Yes, yes.
It has some horrible circumstances. Um, but I'm if they're calling it horror, that makes me happy because unfortunately in
Well,
mainstream,
psychological horror.
yeah, in mainstream media and just mainstream reviewers, like horror has seemed like a lesser art. And if this is what changes people's minds, this type of film, this The Witch, Hereditary,
Mm.
of the scope of how great horror writing can be, um, I'm all for it. But unfortunately, if somebody who's just a mainstream movie viewer, I would they sit through this film?
I think it would take um, someone who has at least seen something to this degree before, in the sense that, like you were talking about art film, I suppose is something that one could say that's generic to all art films is that it's something, either, like you said, the way in which maybe the chronology of the story is told, like there's something specific about how the story is being told, or maybe how the story is being shot, or how the actors are being portrayed. Like there's something very specific that is carried throughout the whole movie. And this one is, there's a number of different things. One obvious thing is in our face, that is black and white. So there's already something, like it sets it back. And we're known that this is in the 1900s, or was it even earlier than that?
1890s.
1890s, so close. So we know that it takes place in that time. We know it's black and white. So that's already thrown in our face, literally. And then on top of that, we're given just this this crazy acting and this amazing talent, and you can tell, like, it's just so tastefully done that there's just something special about it, and this is how he wanted this to play out. And so I feel like every art film has its own rhyme or reason as to why it's a quote unquote art film in that way. Like the story, like with Tarantino, it's like his storytelling, his pace, that just extended scenes where he just lets the actors sort of just play. I thought it was really well done. That's what I was
You
really
did see it
vague.
earlier in the day, though, right?
No, I saw it at 8 o'clock at night,
Oh,
and
okay. I
there
thought
was
you
only
went
about
early
10
in the
other
day.
people. I took coffee with me though, because you said it was slow and it was late, so I was like, I took coffee with me.
Yeah, I think at the first time I saw it was 9:30, so it was about 11:30 by the time it was over. The Lighthouse, at first I felt that it was a little bit drawing, but that second viewing, I, I I felt amazing after seeing it. I was just had a big old smile.
Give me a rating. You said top two of the decade?
Yeah, I would
Okay.
I would
Oh, you
have
said top 20 of the decade.
I said top two.
Oh, top two of the decade. Okay. All right. Give me a rating.
I said eight and a half after the first time I saw it. I'd probably have to bump that up a point after the second time I saw it. So I'd have to say 9.5.
Whoa. Ah, I think I agreed with you last time on Joker. That was a 9.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bump that down. I didn't say a number. I just said yeah. So I didn't get a number in. So for Joker, I would say that was, oh man, his acting was really good. I'd say an 8.5 for Joker. That was pretty close. For this one, I ooh, I'm gonna give it an 8.59. I can't say, somewhere between there. It was really good, but those two movies, like, it's hard for me to give two movies the same rating, because then I feel like, oh, what? So that was better?
I would say Lighthouse is almost a perfect film. Old Boy to me is a perfect film. Um, The Godfather is a perfect film to me. The Taxi Driver is a perfect film to me. So just right off top, there wouldn't be too many 10s.
Okay.
But a 9.5, that means that's an amazing. And maybe 5 years from now, maybe it'll be a 10 to me. But that changes too with time and what your emotion is.
All right, folks, that's our show. You have been listening to Coast to Coast Film Reviews with Raj and David. Next week, we will try to have a better show for you. So have a good night.
And folks, have a good time of day.
See ya.